He's a road ahead of full prophecy to be the greatest beast the world has ever seen. I feed him every day, leave the bones clean. I feed him all the hate and he grows me. And he gets claws real big, pissed off quick. And if you cross him, you might drop dead. Metaphorically, of course, settling this war, never getting bored, loves the blood and gore. Always wanting more freedom from the source. They don't really understand until they feel the force departed. If you start shit, you'll be heartless in the darkness. Torn apart quick, you left scars ripped, you'll be chewed up and discarded. And this world ain't right, won't accept it.
All right, everybody, welcome into Real Talk with Spoon and Puddin'.
Your connection has went to shit, man.
Episode 67. What, the picture?
Just everything just went to. He's frozen. Can you see that too, Red?
Actually, he's freezing, and you're like going like in very rapid motion. And it seems to get a little better now. Yeah. Yeah, it's like you're shaking.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Primary purpose of this podcast is to educate and share thoughts and opinions. When we have proof and evidence on a topic, it will be brought forth. This podcast does not constitute advice or service to anyone. Spoon and Puddin' do not accept any responsibility or liability for anyone, our guests, or anyone's comments or actions based on material we talk about on our podcast. This podcast is private, non-commercial use, and everyone should ascertain that the information we provide is correct and verified at all times. There shall be no editing, or reproduction of this podcast without prior written permission from Spoon and Puddin'. You can reach us at realtalkwithspoonandpuddin@gmail.com.
It's been a while, Red.
Yes, sir. How are y'all? How are y'all, gentlemen, today? And I use the term loosely.
Well, gentle people. Passive aggressives. But anyway, what's your topic today, Red, since you've been off for a long time?
My main thing I was thinking about was some of the key words that we should start using on different aspects when discussing gun control or civilian gun confiscation. That was mainly what I was thinking about, you know.
I've seen we have a gun tuber running for Congress.
Yes. Yes, old Brandon Herrera.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if we're supposed to mention his name, but yes. And San Antonio District 53, I think he said.
That big one with I think it's according to the thing, it's the one with the largest border between U.S. and Mexico. Tony Gonzalez is the incumbent, and apparently hasn't been voting right. But hey, at least he's putting his money where his mouth is. If anybody can bump that guy, I'm sure it's the AK guy.
Right, and I believe he is also libertarian, by the way.
Yeah, that's the Libertarian Youth Convention. He's gone to it. I think that was I know he went to it last year and the year before. I've watched his speeches there. Very libertarian fellow, which great,
Isn't it strange that there's an awful lot of the major gun tubers are actually of the libertarian derivative? It
just shows who's the right, who has the correct mindset. We've got, Spoon's buddy calls me his favorite little communist occasionally. When I tell him I'm a classic liberal, it's okay. Most people hear that word and think bad, but no, if we would have been conservative in 1776, we would have never fucking broke away from Britain.
Right. We would have continued the monarchy.
Yeah, that's what conservative is. It's living in the past. Liberalism is looking forward, but eventually liberals need to understand that the way we're heading forward is not the correct way.
Right. Yeah. There's some variants that are going on that, but at the moment, there are aspects of things that the squeaky wheel gets the oil or gets the attention. So, right now that's what we're going through. And my 53 years on life, there's been, a number of different things that have risen their head and, and eventually it just sort of, goes by. So, but even there, as far as socially on certain types of issues, I don't necessarily have a problem with it either. Live and let live. It's where I get the problem is where people want to say, hey, we're going to jam it in your face and you have to accept it, and like that you have to capitulate. It's almost like we're living in in a liberal Muslim society, if you will, where, you either conform or you die, kind of a thing, so, you either accept it or we're going to kill you, essentially. So, I mean, and there are certain things, that I can say, hey, live and let live, each individual one of us, in all of that regard. But, I sometimes it's like, why does everybody why does everybody absolutely have to accept what you do? It's not just good enough that people may say, okay, you live the way you want to live and it's all cool. I don't, you could say maybe I don't agree with it, but these people are like, oh no, you have to agree with it. Kind of a thing.
Well, you was talking about on some of the way things are said. one of the biggest things I hear all the time, and it drives me crazy, is they say people who don't want people to have guns is, well, there's no reason for you to have a military style rifle. Nobody should ever have that. And I think back was our forefathers knew what they were doing when they wrote the Constitution. And I do believe when we started this treasonous thing back in the 1770s and we want our independence, what did we use to do that with?
Military style weapons.
Was that not a military style weapon?
Yes, it was. The civilian population had the same weapons as the military.
But you can't have these rational conversations with some people because all they see is the narrow path. They have the blinders on,
Right.
NPCs and non-playable characters that just follow whatever they've heard and just go on along with it instead of doing research. I don't care what your research is. It could be a YouTube video, but look at both sides. Look for both sides, because there's always two sides to an argument. And if you're a reasonable thinking person, you should, form an opinion based on listening to both sides.
Well, we did the podcast. What was it, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, thanks a lot for missing one.
No, I'm talking about where when we showed. Where's the damn banners at? Trying to find it, but anyway, we showed the
good show prep.
What? Something's wrong with my damn computer.
I might have took them down. I don't remember.
Did you take them down?
I don't know.
Well, while he's looking for that, one of my things is the terms that we are using as far as that. When the anti-gun population wants to consider what they say high capacity magazines. Well, we need to kind of get away from the term of a high capacity magazine to using a standard capacity magazine, because, no matter what determines the capacity as far as that, an AR-15 does have a 30 round magazine, an AK-47 does have a 30 round magazine. Those are the standard capacity magazines that those rifles use. And any other variants to them, are just varianted as far as that. I mean, if it fits in the platform, then it's a standard capacity magazine. And, you may want to notate afterwards the quote unquote number of rounds that magazine has, but it's still a standard 30 round capacity, a standard 20 round capacity magazine, because there's no, hey, this is a high capacity magazine. If you're talking about a Remington 700, which, you can get 5 or 6 rounds in. Yes. Is that a higher amount of capacity? Sure. But a Remington 700 is not the same as an AR-15 style platform weapon, and so, that doesn't mean that it has a high capacity magazine. It's just still standard capacity. And then the term gun control, which many of us want to use, I actually think the Washington law guy, which is where I've gotten this from, he's taken to calling it civilian gun confiscation as far as that goes. And essentially that is what it is, because just like with the pistol brace rule, with the bump stock rule, and all these other kind of things, all they're doing every single time they've come about it, even though these items are just things that can attach to the weapon, the third option is always turn the weapon in, to your local law enforcement, and they'll destroy it. So it just clearly shows you that where they're trying to get to is an unarmed populace. And we've seen throughout history that anytime you take weapons away from the populace, it's followed up by draconian government taking over, and it usually leads to a lot of different, if you want to say, genocides or mass killings from the government, as far as that goes, because then they know they can take care of it.
On the gun topic here, I'm not gonna. So here's this is Tom Greaves. I don't know if you ever watched his channel.
I do not know. Okay.
Tom Greaves is his channel. A new rule is coming. And I agree with him 100%. He's like Washington Gun Law or Guns and Gadgets, but he's an attorney. I think he's up in Wisconsin or something. I shared this with 2 gun store owners here locally. I share it with any gun store owner, but if you're a gun store owner, I highly recommend you go look at this. Thanks to the Safer Communities Act, which passed last year, bipartisan, you got them turncoat assholes, which is why I don't vote Republican unless I'm just being lazy and trying to hurry up out of there. Usually I like to write something in, but there's new forms that come out since that passed. And if anyone here hasn't filed a 4473 since the new form comes, there's a question on there. There's some new questions talking about, are you going to resell this gun?
Yes,
and
I did hear something about that.
Yes. So what's coming? And they're going to do an APA, Administrative Procedure Act is coming. And what's going to be coming here is they're about to close down your right to sell your property. That's what they're getting ready to do. The wheels are in motion and the gears are grinding. And if you sell it for profit, what he believes is he thinks the number is 5 in a calendar year. If you sell a 6th gun in a calendar year and are not a dealer, you have committed a felony, 5 years in prison, $250,000 fine. That's coming.
Million gun confiscation. Because once you become a felon, what do you have to do with the guns that you have?
Give them up.
Give them up. I mean, you could probably gift them to somebody who could legally take them, but there's a whole lot of muddy water, and this is all just speculation because we don't know what the APA rule is going to state. But when it comes, we don't know where it's going to go. I don't know some of the auctioneer guys that are used to selling guns. This may be the end of that. This could spell the end of that. And will the Supreme Court stand up and say no? Didn't they falter on one here recently? The framed receiver rule, they kicked that back.
They put an injunction on it. Essentially, they were like,
"Oh no!" They removed the injunction and kicked it back and said it's constitutional. They did not, so you can't always expect them to do the right thing. And making your gun is just as much of a right that you have as to bearing it. Sorry, you've always been allowed to. Some of the rifles that were fired against the British were homemade guns.
Oh yes,
homemade cannons.
You had folks with blacksmith knowledge and stuff like that, and the ability to carve wood and work metal.
Yeah, Shays Rebellion, which Shays Rebellion is one that really shows that the state didn't need the federal arms. And we've had long conversations about this, Red, where I think the military and you haven't been on since I talked about the NDAA. And I mean, we've got a comment here about military style weapons, which is accurate. I would argue that having a semi-automatic weapon is just as good as having a full automatic or a 3-round burst. 3-round burst is interesting, and it would be more discapacitating, if you would say. If 2 of the 3 bullets hit your target, it would be more. But one bullet, people don't understand the difference between rifle and pistol. Rifle rounds are. There was a doctor in Chicago they was asking him. He was a trauma surgeon, and he was saying if you're hit with a pistol round and you can get to the hospital within 30, 40 minutes, generally they could save your life. He said if you're hit with a rifle and you're not in care within 5 minutes, there's probably not much they can do for you. You know, the terminal ballistics are just absolutely night and day. There's no difference between them. But the military style weapon comment is, I'm not going to say that they don't, but that's not meaning that our police force doesn't, ride around for enforcing laws on us with, semi-automatic rifles. I mean, wasn't that a semi-automatic rifle that stopped the Covenant school shooting? Is that what that was?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to assume so, yes.
No. So, I mean, at this point, we're being policed by the red coat police wielding semi-automatics. We're being policed by it. And I know exactly you're correct. I'm not going to say you're not correct. I'm just saying I understand the difference of, the guns. And I mean, in World War II, they were running around with bolt actions. Different time.
Bolt actions and, up until the STG 44, pretty much so, which is still an intermediate round.
The M1 Garand was also it was a semi-auto,
8-round semi-automatic rifle.
Yeah, it was the predecessor to the AK-47. Yeah, but
essentially, yes.
Mm-hmm. Basically, AK-47 is an upside down M1 Garand.
Right. You have your AK, you have your AR, and I'll take the 50 cal.
I actually got a 50 cal now. Finally.
You do?
Yeah.
You do?
50 Beowulf. Boom.
Oh, okay.
I didn't get the BMG yet. Come on now. I'm going to have to, maybe in 2 or 3 months. I want the 50 BMG. I just want the 50 because of how scared the guy at Waco was. There's a 50 cal in there. You're also part of a team that's got like how many people surrounding the compound? Asshole. Tanks coming, But
is that the Branch Davidian episode?
Yeah.
Which one?
Waco.
Oh, the Waco. Yeah, yeah. There was Did you see that on Netflix where?
I'm going to assume not.
Guy. No, the SWAT guy. There was a SWAT guy. He was in the back barn. He was like 300 yards or something off, 300-400 yards off from the compound. And in like the 3rd episode of that 4-part series on Waco.
No, then I definitely did not see that.
Yeah, no, Spoon's seen it. So, but anyways, that dude was petrified of the 50. He commented on it. How many times did he comment on it? 3 times? 3 or 4 times.
He's there and he's looking through his scope with his probably AR or whatever. I don't know what he's got, but he finds that window and he's like, oh my God.
He sees the barrel of a 50 cal pointed back at the rear barn.
The 50 cal's pointed right at him and he's looking at it. He's like, oh my God.
Oh my God, the 50 cal. It makes you want one. It sold it. I got to have one eventually. I went ahead and went cheap and got the 50 Bayo, but I don't know. That don't mean that in 3 or 4 months I don't go 50 BMG.
Can we test it out on that old car?
I've already got it. Hey, I got a silhouette that's I don't know, probably 12 by like 24 inches of a cutout, and it's hanging from 2 chains. First shot out of it, I hit it square in the center, and it just knocked it. It knocked the chains right off of it, and it fell. I was like, damn. Like, yeah, I think it could be a block. But yeah, it's going to be a hard step to shoot a 50 BMG. I mean, it was already hard enough to pay almost $2 a round for 50 Beowulf, but paying $6 a round for 50 BMG. But if it freaks the man out, hey, great. Everyone should own one. Oh boy. But
the amazing thing of it is that weapon design and that cartridge is over 100 years old at this point.
Oh yeah. The M2, man, what a long. I mean, I'd say that is the longest running. Well,
I don't know. They're using the Vickers in Ukraine, so I think that.
Yeah, they're the Maxim. They're using the Maxim.
Maxim, yeah.
That's the longest running, but I'd say it's top. It's got to be number 3. I'm sure there's still some militaries that are using 1911s, or don't the SEALs get to pick their weapon of choice?
Choose their weapons, essentially, yeah.
So if a SEAL likes 1911, he's still got it fielded. So, since he's allowed to choose, so he's still got a 112-year-old weapon in service, and then the next would be, I say, the M2. But there are Moose and Nagant, so there or I'm sure, hell, they're probably fielding Kar 98s in Ukraine if they got some. You know what I'm saying?
I imagine. Some of the videos where they post on YouTube of these different antiquities that are being used. Hell, even some of the antique weapons that they found in like Afghanistan and different places in Iraq and Syria and places. It just goes to show you. I mean, if you've got a gun, it doesn't matter how old it is. Somebody's essentially going to defend themselves with it.
If it expels Pew, it can be defendable.
Right.
So, but no, I don't know about your comment about gun control and language. I mean, I try to talk about language all the time, but the language is getting more and more fluid. It's getting harder to find your grounding anymore. We don't have military. We're not allowed. We should be allowed. I want the NFA to go away. I want the Hughes Amendment to be taken down. I think we should be allowed to buy whatever the U.S. military is buying.
If you can afford it, right?
Now, if you can afford it, knock yourself out. You can afford an Apache, knock yourself out. Go buy it.
I was talking to my buddy Chris. He come on the podcast with us. Been a while back. We was talking about that and that Mega Millions. It was 1.58 billion. And I said, we was talking about what we do, and I said, well, I'd have a couple tanks and build a wall and have a couple 50 cals sticking out of each corner of the, just daring the ATF to come see me like they did Waco.
These days, you probably
they might take you up on that, Charlie.
Yeah, they will.
Remember, they have the power of the government behind them.
Yeah, well, no, they can do it, but you're not allowed to.
That's right.
They're allowed to assassinate you, and all laws eventually are enforced by the barrel of a gun. Just a little tidbit of knowledge.
Well, what I was trying to say earlier, we done that podcast. We was talking about when we was doing it on Sounds of Freedom. They tried to take around gun control. What was it? 465,000 children were abducted in 2021, and only like 25,000 were killed by a gun. So.
Well, I mean, we've talked about the comparison of they're more concerned about, these numbers that get a goal they want. And I call it I'm both Republicans and Democrats. There are some Republicans, I'd say there may be 1/3 of them that are true gun guys. I'd say there's another third that's probably just whichever way the wind blows, and another third that's just as corrupt as the Democrats. But I don't want them. I want libertarians, man. That's what I want.
Well, I don't want to put a label, but I want Americans who believe in the Constitution and will not pass laws that hinders our Constitution and won't be bought by lobbyists to pass laws. I don't care what. I don't want the label. I don't care. I don't want to know if you're Democrat or Republican, Independent, Libertarian. I want you to know that you're an American and you're going to be there to represent the people and uphold the Constitution and not pass any of this BS laws and be bought. Whatever label you want to put on yourself, that's up to you. But we can all be honest here. If you broke down every politician we had and look at everything they've done and how they voted and everything,
probably counted on one hand, honestly, who's truly constitutional.
You might be able to keep, like you said, maybe you can count it on two hands, 10 or less. The rest of them you would have to kick out, or they should be in prison for treason to the people.
Well, like last week when we talked about the or the last time when we talked about, or no, it was 2 weeks ago, wasn't it? Where I shown that. Let me see if it's here. Yeah, the vote. Did you see that, Red? The vote.
I'm gonna say no.
You'd say no. That's the 83 senators voted against the Constitution. 83. They said, nope, Article 5 of NATO is more important than Congress making a declaration of war. So Rand Paul put that up. But then again, you hear Rand Paul has made money in medical supplies by having his wife invest in certain medical companies to the tune of $1 million. Throw Martha Stewart in jail. You should go to jail too, bud. You're not better.
Those 83 senators should have been in cuffs and in prison.
They shouldn't have been able to leave that day.
The minute they voted that way, that the Constitution did not carry the weight
Of NATO.
They should have been put in cuffs and walked to prison right then.
I'm going to go back and see if I can find it so I can read it from my phone. It's easier for me to read from my phone, but y'all go ahead. Red?
Oh, right. Yeah, I guess we don't need any moments of silence. Charlie, is that a copy of the Constitution there on your back wall behind you?
It is.
Can't read it.
All right, not bad. And there I am hanging, a dolphin sign behind me.
My son, it's been up for about a year. My son got me that, and he got me something else too. But this is a copy. It's supposed to be like the original.
Mm-hmm.
It's got all the signatures and it's the old paper.
Right. Yeah, the parchment.
What did he do?
He's problem of it is his internet's partially freezing up. Yes, I see.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
And your system's also very blurry. You're also
So
very
this
blurry.
this was the Paul Amendment. It says on the amendment, Paul Amendment number 222, vote number 191, July 19, 2023 at 4:33 p.m. required for majority 3/5. Amendment rejected. The amendment says to express the sense of Congress that Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty does not supersede the constitutional requirements that Congress declare war before the United States engages in war. 16 yes, 83 no, and 1 not voting. So at that point, there's what more proof do you need to realize that the Republic and the Constitution are just dead? I might as well just put them in the morgue. And like I said, I ain't going to defend everything Rand Paul's done, but he's one of the better ones. He might be one of the 2 senators you might keep, or one of the 8 congressmen, like Spoon says. But if they vote for war, I can't vote for them. I mean, that was what I liked about Ron Paul. He never voted for war. Mm-hmm.
Well, when you talk to Republicans, like we talked to Dale the other night, he's no different. They want to act like everything is the Democrats' fault. Like they have played no part in this power struggle and stripping the rights and freedoms from the people. And when you talk to Republicans, they want to pick and choose who's Republican. Mitch McConnell, he's not Republican. George Bush, he's not Republican. Anyone's that.
But you were happy as a lark when he was in fucking control.
Oh yeah, but now that he's not Republican, he's Democrat. It's like
but now that he's not in control, and you see the way the guy votes, you throw him off. So if we throw him off now, we want him gone. There was an interesting poll the other day that popped up in my YouTube feed. How old should there be an age limit for politicians? And yeah, sure, I voted on it, and there was like 65, 70, 75, 80. There was like 4 choices.
Well,
and then one said there was like a 50. You got to be 35.
To be free.
We're talking about watching, Feinstein roll out and not even know what the hell that old crotchety woman's doing. She's got, I think they said something about her daughter has power of attorney over her actions, but she's still voting.
Is she the one in the wheelchair?
She's incapacitated to make decisions in her own. Yeah, she's the lady in the wheelchair. She's incapacitated to the point that she can't make any decisions at home, but we allow her to vote in the Senate. What is wrong? you know, and
Well, she don't know.
no, she did vote. No,
Better.
just recently she voted for war recently. The Democrat, this old Democrat who was supposed to be anti-war, has voted for war.
Yeah, but that's how they told her to vote. Here, vote this way.
Yeah, exactly. They told her to vote that way. But
I will say this, and I would say that you should probably definitely have a cognitive function test. I don't know if I'd want to say put an age limit, because there's some very sharp 90-year-olds, and there's some very what was it? What's the disease that old people get? Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's people that are in their 60s and stuff like that.
I agree with you, but it should be a real tough cognitive test. If you're holding the levers of government and you're 20% gone, you shouldn't be making decisions. Sorry, I don't think you should. But
yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you. I mean,
no, I think it should be. But it was interesting that the people who voted, because I mean, at that point, you've got what's this goofball from Pennsylvania, Fetterman, who his mind, he couldn't pass one. Sorry, he's an idiot. He's had a stroke or something screwed his head up. He's under 65, but he shouldn't be voting. The guy can't form a sentence. I mean, I've watched him. He has no cognitive function, but he gets to vote. 50% of the state's will, and it's all because the Republicans put such a turd up against him. What's that, Dr. Oz or whatever? That guy's a turd. He's an Oprah turd. Just another Oprah loving turd. I can't. These Oprah people and Dr. Phil. I was watching something the other day. They were talking about some of the worst celebrities behind the scenes. They said Dr. Phil's one of them. He's a complete asshole to everybody he's around. And I mean, you get, on the Sound of Freedom thing, there's a whole bunch come out about Oprah as possibly being something, in that realm, but they say you don't get to that level without it, but it was funny because over half the people said 65 should be the age limit to stay in government, which that would really just, clean out the ranks.
Well, one thing I don't understand is like your Supreme Court judges. They can stay in there until they're 100.
Yes.
Why?
Well, once again, as I said, should you have to perform a yearly cognitive test of your faculties? And yeah, I mean, if you fail, then it should be. You should be taken off. You should be removed. Now, I mean, why are you there? I mean, and I understand these people may have had great minds once upon a time, but once you get to the point where you're not there, essentially vegetative, if you will, for lack of a better word, you don't need to be there issuing opinion as far as that. And, so whether that, I mean, I could see the only reason why people would probably want to weaponize that aspect would be, as whichever presidential party is in power at that time, to put in their guy, I guess, if you will, or their woman, their person, and, who's going to vote in their aspect. But at the same time, I mean, Republicans have sent many, many, many justices to the court, and they sure as hell don't vote in lockstep with Republican ideology.
Thanks to Amy Coney Barrett is the one who flipped the frame receiver rule back. She was the one who didn't stick with the right side, and everybody always thought, "Oh, she's a good gun person." Yeah, right. No, she wasn't.
Well,
she really.
I mean, I think we should go back to how it was, where our representatives were appointed, and if they didn't uphold them, we could put off and all that. I think that's how all of them should be: Supreme Court, senators.
No, I disagree on the Supreme Court. It was Constitution always said once they were appointed, it was a lifetime appointment, and John Jay was a good one. The first Supreme Court justice, he was a good one. So, if you're but maybe what Red said about the cognitive function.
Yeah,
You know?
I agree with that, but I don't think it
Yeah,
should be
for
like,
Supreme Court, maybe you should sit down and
hell, I think
they
for all
make
of
us
them.
truck drivers. Well, they make us truck drivers go for a yearly or 2 bi-yearly, physical.
Yeah.
If you're at one of those high up DC, voted in or appointed powers, maybe you should have a yearly or bi-yearly cognitive function test.
I think all of them should be, whether it's president or senator or Supreme Court.
ATF, AJ, the chair of the ATF, and all these.
Hey, police too. Why ain't they having those bi-yearly?
Oh no! They won't.
The police actually. The police actually have to retire, I believe, by the age of 60. They're retired. They are not allowed to serve in an operational capacity after the age of 60.
Well, I remember the Connecticut. I remember the Connecticut firefighter that wanted to go be a police officer. Do you remember that? I think I sent that to you once upon a time, Red. He went to go be a police officer. He took an IQ test, and they rejected him because they sent it in writing that, your IQ is too high. You're too smart to be a police officer. So what does that say? If you're a police officer, I guess your IQ is low enough to, sorry.
Going back to what Charlie may have been, like appointed offices like sheriff, which is something that's voted in. I mean, you're a figurehead.
Maybe, yes,
essentially, you're not on a daily operation type of a thing,
right?
As far as that goes, or even a police chief in some communities is also voted in.
Are the chiefs voted?
Not in our town.
I would say it's probably maybe on a town by town basis. I think they should be.
Well, probably state by state, whatever a state.
Well, I mean, I would say just, if there is a chief, yes, he should be voted in. And I think they should all be answerable to their constituents. If you're the head of the military force that's policing you, whether you like the term or not, that's what it is.
Paramilitary.
I'm gonna go further and call them the military force that's policing us, because they enforce the rules by the gun that's in their holster, right? And
well, yes.
Just
that's
like
why they would essentially be a paramilitary force.
Well, I'm just saying. I actually just ordered. I need to go read it. I haven't sat down and read it yet, but I got the 2023 version of gun carrying for all 50 states.
Oh, okay. I have not gotten that in a while.
I haven't. Yeah, I know you had it years back, but it was just like
I used to get it annually.
Yeah. Oh, you did. Just like the JSO officer, where you told him that, no, according to Florida law, it's this. And he says, no, 3 steps. And so, Florida law says that. Well, I'll arrest you. And I was like, you'd arrest me for following the actual law because you don't know it. Yeah, that's for the state attorney to figure out. That's a cop we don't want. You need to be fired, sir. And the police chief for that county or whoever needs to be voted by the people so that you can address him.
Well, and he was that's a sheriff.
JSO sheriff, yes.
Yeah. So he was a
office.
Yeah.
I don't know if Florida's different now, but I love watching those guys because before you could only carry your gun if you were going to or from fishing or hunting or whatever.
I think that's California. There's been people who've used that. They put a fishing pole beside a gun.
well, these guys would test them because they park like a mile away, and then they would strike the rifle and their fishing pole to their back and walk the mile to the creek or lake or wherever. And of course, the cop would stop them and try to give them a hard time, and they're like, "Look, the law says if I'm going to and from fishing, I can carry it."
I've seen people in I think Oklahoma, there was a guy who the cops were probably getting ready to shoot the poor feller. He was walking around because they did an open carry. They changed the laws a few years back. They changed the law in Oklahoma where you could open carry a pistol. And he had a pistol braced AR and he was carrying it through a park. And the police showed up and they were halfway ready to shoot this cat. Because he's like, this is a pistol. I'm open carried pistol. That's the law. And he was, he was doing what you call your First Amendment style audit on the police, but I almost caught a bullet, honestly, because people were calling in, because idiots that don't know what a military gun is or know military style or don't know the difference between a 14.5 and a pistol brace and a 16 in a stock. You know,
because everybody was calling in saying this crazy man had a military weapon in the park.
he's running around in a park with an AR or an M4 or an M6, you know, whatever it is.
Well, see,
whatever news program they watched last told him it was.
The bigger problem we have these days is people don't know how to mind their freaking business. You know, everybody's got to be involved in somebody else's business. You know.
Do you remember back in the day, Red, the M16? I think it was the Crossman. They had an M16, had like a 4 pellet clip and held BBs. I had one of those. I used to walk around the neighborhood with that thing. Today, I'd probably been shot. It didn't have an orange tip on the muzzle or nothing. It looked like an authentic M16. I used to go around plinking cans all the time, go in the woods and shoot at cans and shoot squirrels with it.
Well, every time I go outside to smoke, my son's got his BB gun, but it looks like a real rifle leaning against beside the front door. And I'm thinking, well, if the police ever come over here and I step out, and that might not be a good idea. I'm like, might need to take that back inside.
Well, and that's the insanity too. Is that you know, is what? Why should you have to? What, you know, and why are we at the point where, you know, we're afraid of the fact? Why are we at the point where cops are afraid of us being armed? You know, as far as that, I mean,
I'm afraid of them shooting.
It's well, right, yes, and that's a much larger issue also that goes along with that. You know, I mean, you as an American have the right to have that weapon. Why is it that if you're on your property, or, you know, like the guy in the park, although I may not advise walking around in a park with a gun, as far as that goes, you know, why are they, you know, initially?
Yeah, why are they rolling up, getting in their? Why are they rolling into the park, running to their trunks and getting their rifles and running up with the safeties off, pointing them at this guy? You know, why are they automatically just ready to, you know, punch his ticket and then claim, you know, was it immunity? What's that called?
Right.
Qualified immunity. Qualified immunity.
Qualified immunity.
Yeah, you're ready to punch this guy's ticket and kill him and execute him and then claim qualified immunity so you can't be held responsible for your actions.
This is the big problem I have with police. All right. I don't care if I've known you 100 years or I don't know you at all. You may be a great officer, but you swore an oath to uphold the Constitution and my rights. So if you roll up on me trying to impose a law that is not constitutional, that's where I have a problem, right? So if you have your First Amendment, whether it doesn't even have to be about guns, it could be your First Amendment, freedom of press, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, whatever that constitutional right you have. If you try to impose your will to use law or city ordinance or anything to take my constitutional right away from me, I don't think you're a good police officer. Automatically.
Well,
that's my opinion.
Any law that could be argued that is unconstitutional. Yes, first and foremost. And again, color of law. I like to stress the color of law point because this pistol brace is a rule, not a law. And I think it's dead. But we see the frame and receiver rule didn't die. But they really mucked up on the pistol brace one because they changed the APA completely. It was a Form 4999 was the original form. And they had so many comments on it. They just said, well, we'll just throw the form out and just say anything that attaches, put a tennis ball on the back of your AR pistol. You now have a brace and you're a felon. So they completely threw out the APA that they went with and just went with a whole new one, a whole new set. And that's what's going to kill that one because they didn't follow it. That doesn't mean that they won't back up, re-gear, go again. Right, you know, yes. And they're just, and the whole time they're doing this, the deficit's going that way. And, or let me see, is it that way? We move, depending on which chart you're looking at. But they just keep on wasting your money while they come up with this shit.
Well,
everyone's okay with it.
I'll give you an example of a violation of the Fourth Amendment. I got off work third shift. It was like 9 or 10 in the morning, and I was going to Sonic to get a drink before I came home. There was a little boy, probably wasn't older than 3 or 4 years old, trying to run across the 4-lane divided highway from where Sonic is to Mapco, where they're in the middle of town. Cars flying 45, 50 mile an hour. I stopped and got him in my vehicle and called the police to come. And I told everything to the dispatcher I gave her my name and information and all that. What do you think the first thing the officer did when he pulled up?
Sure, his gun?
No, he wanted my ID to run me for warrants. He didn't look at the child. He didn't ask about the child. Nothing. I have the child.
Why didn't you record this? We could have put it on the channel.
Well, I was more worried about the child's safety.
I understand you're more worried about the conversation, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to have a conversation with a effing police officer in my video camera on my phone not running. Period.
But I looked at him and I said, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah, I need to see your." I said, "Look, I'm not going to argue. Here's my ID."
The F you
I
do.
said, "Here's." Yeah, I'm just saying. I went ahead and complied. I'm like, whatever, dude.
Speaking
your
of
dispatcher
comply.
already, your dispatcher already has all the info. I'm not going to argue with you. You're more worried about whether I have a warrant or not. I know. I hadn't done anything. So here, just run me for warrants while this child sits over here. But I told him after he's done, I said, "You're a bad police officer." That's all I'm going to say. And he took the child, and I went on my way.
The people that run around with the "I will not comply," y'all are kind of funny, honestly, because you comply all the time. You know, like I said, you complied, Mr. Spoon. I would have told him to go to suck. I said, "Well, you want to suck my left nut and make the right one jealous, officer?"
I knew what route it was going to go. I was already tired. Worked on.
I've been ready to go that route. I'd have been prepared to go that damn route.
I just want to go.
No. You always you sit around and we went with you. I went with your Big Spoon Transparency and recorded you trying to First Amendment. And there was your First Amendment audit where you could have said,
"No, this was before. This was years and years ago. It's been like 7 or 8 years ago, something. I don't know."
Oh, with the kid.
Yeah, it's been like 5. 6
Oh, you
years
making
ago.
it sound like it was just yesterday?
No. I could understand he wasn't referring to yesterday.
Oh, I was about to say if it was yesterday and he was at the Sonic, because Spoon goes to the Sonic all the time. That's his little hangout spot.
Well, and I can understand.
Price drinks on that.
I got you.
Well,
the fluorinated water, which I'm going to shut up about.
and the thing of it is how about the child? How about the safety of the child initially?
They weren't worried
as
about
far
that.
as that goes. No,
they were hoping I had a warrant so they could arrest me. That's what he was hoping for.
Right.
Not that. Hey, citizen, thank you for rescuing that child out of the middle of the road from getting run over.
For doing the right thing.
Right, and finding out why the child that young was there. You know what I mean? How about finding out where that happened? How that got there. And as you had already said, you'd already given them your name. I mean, just on the dispatch alone, they could have ran your name and through the system. And the only thing it would have done was the only thing looking at your ID would have done was confirm that was who you are, but yeah, I mean, it should have been the child, the importance. How about finding out why the child, and I don't know how long it took for the police to get there in that particular instance, but at any point, was there a parent to show up,
No.
Was a parent there to show up and be like, "Hey, where's my child at?" I
found out later. I guess the mom worked day, or the dad worked night, so he was asleep. The mom left and went somewhere and left the child at home with the dad, and the dad's asleep. I guess the dad didn't know, and then the child just walked out of the house. And he was trying to go to Mapco and get candy.
Well, bravo for having the spontaneity at such a young age to say,
well,
"Hey,
that's
this
a
is what
child
I
that's
want
going
to
to work to pay for our retirement, huh?"
Yes. Yeah.
He
But
wants candy. He knows how to go get it. So he's going to go and work for pay for a lot of people on welfare.
But yeah. You would have thought that their overall first priority would have been
go to the neighbor's house and knock like when I'm in a costume and they just hand me candy. Give me the bag, please. Trick or treat.
Right.
Oh God. But on that note, I just you got anything, Spoon? I don't really. Only thing I want to hammer you on is your lack of showing up now. Spoon's been on vacation a lot, y'all.
He's talking about
Riley.
He's talking about last Sunday. I worked Saturday night.
He come out like a little soggy marshmallow, I guess, and
it was pouring rain most of the night. Then I had to work by myself when I was supposed to have help. I was not in a good mood. I was soaking wet. I was ready to come home and get dry and go to bed. And he was like, "Oh, you didn't show up this week."
Mm. Well, we had 2 vacations. One was of a Spoon vacation, and one was a both of us vacation.
we can do another one like Wednesday morning or Thursday morning to make up for the one we missed.
Mm. Well, do you want?
That way you all could, speak about your local politics.
Well, see, we started out this conversation this morning about Red wants to drop off on local or hang around.
Yeah, I think we've been on long enough. We can just kill it and come back and do another one.
But I don't know. Well, like I said,
I said, one of the things, like I said, I came on here for is definitely, your key phrases. Don't buy into the gun control jargons as far as that goes. Don't use gun control. Use civilian gun confiscation and also standard capacity magazines, because all magazines are standard capacity. There's nothing higher or lower about them, and unless, of course, you want to agree with those people that we should still be walking around with muskets.
I do. Oh my God! You'll stay here for a second, Red. I was contacted last week. What the hell, Baby Yoda? So I was messaged last week or the week before about my tax comments on passive income, and this isn't local. This is also national. So we're not scaring you completely off. But there was a local guy here who was a landlord guy who messaged me about, saying, yeah, passive income is taxable. Oh, okay. All right. It's taxable, but there's not. I sent him 2 videos about, these, and they're older videos. And he said, well, they got rid of you can write off your property taxes. They got rid of that law where there's no exemption where you can write it off. And he stoutly said, I pay my taxes. I paid $46K. So if you're taxed on a similar percentage, you made $600,000 last year. So I don't know. All I said is pay 20% is what I said is a constitutional thing. You could pay 20% and write dick off, and that would be 100% constitutional to all landlords, everyone. And that would be completely constitutional. All landlords pay 20%. We don't care if your place burned down because that's why you pay for insurance, right? And what I was talking about is the unconstitutional way that our taxes are governed. And it was you, Red, and I'm glad you're here because you took me when I heard Neil Bortz and we had our tax talk. What was the name of that place at the Orange Park Mall? Was it Books A Million or? I don't think it was Books A Million, but you run me right down there because you had read it when I heard about it. And we went straight down there and we got the book off the shelf and you showed me where it did the income redistribution, which is a pillar of communism, something I don't want.
I can still hear you.
I know. So what I was talking about on our last podcast was, how you can pay your legitimate portions of tax, being a real estate guy, but it isn't hard to cheat and hide and lie, right? Yeah, fair tax. See, yeah, you have them. That's the one I think we've seen when we went to Orange Park and looked at the book, and you pulled it out.
Yeah, this is the original book.
Yes,
this is the original book.
That's the one you sent it to me because we talked about this, and I was saying a constitutional tax would be a sales tax on the register where anything sold is taxed. I would say sold. You can't tax a right. So I'd say don't tax food. Stop taxing food. States like Tennessee that tax groceries, that's horrible because you have a right to life, but they're taxing you for that right. I mean, I think even fast food should be untaxed, like Ohio. It's odd when you go to Ohio.
You mean prepared food?
Well, prepared food, yeah. Food is food. Kiss my ass. Food's food. But if you want to go buy a pair of jeans, you could make them at home. Maybe the raw materials shouldn't be taxed, and you should tax the actual finished product. I mean, you get into a whole argument of constitutionality, but it was interesting that I got, so I'll issue a retraction. If you're an honest landlord and you pay your taxes, well, good for you. Okay. That doesn't mean that you couldn't easily sweep under the rug all your all your income from being a rental guy and pay nothing. There are people doing it. I'm sure there are.
I mean, we got to pay 14, 15% right off the bat out of our, for income out of our paycheck to the federal.
I don't think no. See, this is where me and Red, we've had our conversation a lot of times on this. Your check should be your effing check, period.
Well, I understand,
100%.
But I'm just saying, you're talking about the landlords that guy was complaining about, I paid my taxes. If he made $600,000 and he only paid in 40, would you say 46?
He said 46. So we use it on a sliding scale of 13-ish%. That would be, roughly $600K, $598K, paid in 46, did a lot better than most people. I mean,
that's actually, wow, that guy's got a lot of property.
Well, he must. I mean, I don't know.
$1,000 in rent. That's a lot of freaking property.
I don't know. Hey, rents have gone stupid. People are paying stupid amount for rent these days. I don't know. I'm sure your rent's been going up, Red, ain't it? For people it
has gone up this time. It has gone up.
Like I said, I ain't going to say no names about it, but I'm just going to say, if you pay your taxes, that's fine. You can't tell me that there aren't landlords who completely obfuscate it and get away with it 100% or don't report a penny of that, and they do get away with it.
I mean, that's a slippery slope. So do servers, so do strippers.
Look, I get it. And again, I'm not when it comes to income tax, it's horribly wrong. It's complete slavery. Okay. It's what it is. It is a portion of slavery. I don't care if it's 10%, it's 10% slave, and that was supposed to be done away with. And it's not. And
although I do hold this book up and it is an interesting idea, but it is not something that I fully endorse because this is still taking taxes out of your paycheck.
Yes, and that was where you showed me, because you had read it and I had heard about it, and that was back in 2006, 2007. Yeah, I heard about it. I told you, I said, man, that's a great concept, man. Just get out of our paychecks and start hitting us at the register. But he wanted it in your paycheck. That was
my idea, because this is still in your paycheck. This is still in my paycheck. What I did was just essentially take this idea and convert it more to a tax, a federal tax.
A federal sales tax purchases. On the register. Yes.
Right. Sales tax. Yes, thank you.
Yes. And that was where we honed it. We honed it over the next 2 years after you opened it up. But as soon as you opened it up and told me that, if you have 2 kids, you get a monthly check of this amount. You have 3 kids, it goes up this amount. You have 1 kid, it's this amount. And I was like, that's still effing communism. It's still income redistribution.
It's still income redistribution, correct?
Yes. And that was where I was like, oh shit. I thought Neil Bort said, you told me he's, he talks about, well, it was the only way we could present it, that it could be amicable and received by Congress, because they're not going to vote to do the right thing. We already know that.
Right.
They're not going to say, hey, we've been wrong for, we'll just vote the right way. But I view income tax as wholly wrong. Capital gains tax, hey, that's one thing. Property tax is one thing. Or rental taxes, that's one thing. I just wanted to touch on that before we got off of this.
Right.
Because
what a lot of people don't understand is that income tax was something that was implemented in the 20th century. It wasn't something that's
throughout the 19th
since the time that the Constitution was signed, which is hanging
on
the wall.
That was Ron Paul. The brilliance of Ron Paul when they talk about, you want to get rid of an income tax, and he got a backdrop of DC in the background. We built this city without an income tax. This city was built without that.
Well, there was still some tax as far as
there was a tax, but it wasn't income.
Right.
Income
The
should
taxes
be
were largely corporate taxes back in those days. It was largely corporate taxes that were doing. And one of the
export
reasons
taxes.
for why income tax came into vogue, if you will, was because people at that time, and this is actually very interesting programs, if you go back and listen to why income tax was actually implemented, is that, believe it or not, people wanted government, is that people felt that the corporations had more power in the government than we the people, if you will. So rather than, let's say, taking it back to a more constitutional aspect, they said, well, hey, let's equalize it and let's charge taxes to the average American who's going to work. So that, that the sole amount of income or the sole amount of taxes wasn't just coming from corporations. Your robber barons that I know you speak about from from time to time and things of that nature, who had way more influence. But let's not kid ourselves. If you don't think corporations still have an overwhelming influence on Congress, you've got to be joking. Just look at any special interest group as far as that goes. So, and there you go. See, these are actually very interesting ideas that, might actually, garner you all a larger audience beyond Portland, Tennessee.
Yeah. No, it could. I was trying to look it up. I don't remember who it was, but I heard. No, I don't. I had to. I think it was Alex Jones was talking about, or it might have been Mike Church back in the day talking about the founder of Macy's. I got your text. The founder of Macy's come up with the idea because when they were going around door to door trying to get income tax from people would slam the door in their face and tell them to piss off. And it was the founder of, I believe they said the founder or president of Macy's at the time was the one in the think tank that figured out, well, let's get it off their paycheck. Then they have to come to us for a refund. You see what I'm saying? They take it first, then they give you a portion of it back, and whatever portion, or they take 20 or give you back. Here's 7%. Be happy. Or you got an extra kid. Here's 9% back. Fuck off, man. You should stay on my paycheck. That's all I want to say. But I'll end on that note. That income tax is slavery. It really is. It truly is. There's you argue it's not. Please.
It's theft.
It's theft and slavery, because if they withhold $1 from me, that's not my dollar. I worked for your dollar. That's my dollar. I earned it. It was earned. And then you come to me and with a barrel of a gun and say, well, we're going to keep this until maybe we'll give you 40 cents back. Fuck you. That's theft,
And truly at the barrel of a gun, believe me.
Yeah, it really is. Mm-hmm. Why I want a 50 to have a scary barrel. Well, let's end on that note, because someone's got to go, Did you get the text yet, Red, or did he just text me?
He text you.
What? What's that? What are you doing over there, Spoon? He froze on that. Is he froze on that? Oh, boy.
Right. I would call that something else, but that would be a very scary looking one if I were to.
All righty, y'all. We'll catch y'all next week. We'll do more about the local.
I think that's along the lines of this.
Shocker. Oh, boy. Well, thanks for coming on, Red.
Been my pleasure.
All right. We'll see y'all next week, and we'll talk more about the local stuff next week without Red. See ya.